and welcome to another episode of Unique Professions. Today, I have someone who is an influencer. Influencers people in the world of fashion. It is my pleasure to introduce Rebecca Rose, better known as Rebecca Rose Reviews.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Now, first off, I want to know, how did you've built a really big empire, how did you start off?
Well, I started off with not even knowing I knew what Instagram was, but I really didn't know much else about it apart from that. And obviously I started off with just, probably just my husband following me. And I didn't even at that point know what an influencer was. I didn't know what an Insta blogger was. So it was baby steps from the beginning because I had no idea what I was doing.
Okay, so I suppose you posted photos of yourself and you slowly and organically built an audience. Would that be correct?
Actually, in the beginning, I was doing flat lays and I was not posting many photos of myself. But I found that people were really gravitating more towards the pictures of me. And as time went on, I posted more and more photos of myself and it kind of grew into being, fashion and most of the photos having me in them. Whereas in the beginning, very few of them had me in them. It was mostly just makeup and flat lays. But I really enjoy actually having more of a role and being in the photos more.
Yeah. And I guess when you did start out and you did these flat lays, was there a moment at some point where you went, oh, hang on, this is starting to get, really big?
Yeah, I think so. But I think it took off more when I started doing pinup and I started having more of a personal aspect to it instead of just having like a flat lay that didn't have any of me in it. I found that once I started doing pinup and connecting more with my audience, that's when it sort of started to take off more.
Where did your love of pin-up come from? Because I'd say that's, 90% of what you do right now. Was that from your childhood? Or was that just, something that you liked later in life?
Well, I was always drawn towards sort of a vintage sort of vibe. I loved Audrey Hepburn. She's my idol. So I think later on I started to discover that there was like a Perth pinup community. And I was like, this is kind of what I've always been looking for, but just didn't realize I was looking for. So I think that once I started to discover all of those different communities, I just I learnt more and more and I realized this is really the thing I've been looking for.
Yeah. And I guess, with pin-up, what are some of your favourite aspects of that? Obviously the clothing, but what other things from that, usually it's a 1940s, 50s, 60s kind of style that you like. What draws you to that era, those eras the most?
Um, well, I'd say in the modern day pinup community, it's probably a lot more inclusive than a lot of other communities. So you actually see a lot more variety in the kind of body shapes and all the different models and so on. So that kind of drew me towards the modern community. But I also like the makeup, the hair, the home decor, all those sorts of vintage things. I love all of that. Most of it I love. I don't love the 1950s housewife sort of thing. I'm not really a great housewife, but that's okay.
Yeah. And in your own words, what is your role as a social media influencer?
Well, obviously you could technically say to influence, but I think that for me personally, I love to be able to have probably more of a message and more of an impact than just showing people pretty clothes or something like that. Like I do like to share with people my mental illness struggles. I like to share with people my real life struggles and I've been told before that that's really helped others. So I feel like that is something that, is maybe a role I fell into later on.
Yeah. I guess, like you're saying that, you can use your platform to in a good space as well to, highlight these issues.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think if we just push like a sort of, consume agenda, that's not a good thing. Like, I think that it is really great when you can have some kind of underlying message that is positive and that in some way you can impart some wisdom to other people and help them along their way.
Yeah. So, when you are a full-time influencer, is that your body of work? Is that how you get your income? Is that your only kind of stream of income? Or do you have, like a 9 to 5 as well?
No, but I have health issues, so I am looking at transitioning into making this full time.
Yep.
And at the moment, because I have health issues, this is the main thing I focus on. And as you know, the incomes can vary greatly. So there's people who make a lot of money. So there is the opportunities out there, and there's the possibility to have it be like a full-time job. But it's definitely different to a 9 to 5. That's for sure. I find myself doing very random but really cool things.
How does a person or a company approach you generally?
Okay, well, a lot of companies will contact me through Instagram. Sometimes they might contact me through my website or my email, and they'll just come and say, we're interested. Would you like to collaborate? Sometimes they might have an idea of something they specifically want me to do. Sometimes they might leave it more open to me. And then I'll go back and check sort of my availability, if I'm actually interested, how rewarding it is for me,
Yep.
and all that sort of thing. Because it has to be mutually beneficial. And yeah, sometimes one of the downsides of being an influencer is that you can sort of be undervalued, and it can be seen as something that maybe doesn't have as much value as something tangible.
And I think I do agree with you there that there is a lot of stigma about influencing. Quite often you see things in the paper, what do they actually do, those kind of things. What do you actually, would you say to those sort of people who criticise you and others?
Well, I think that in any profession you have people who are going to be doing basically nothing, and I think there'll always be people who are really earnest and really hardworking, and there's always going to be people slacking off. And we've seen that in every profession. So obviously it's not fair to tar all influencers with the same brush, but unfortunately it does happen. And there's influencers out there who are lazy, and there's ones like me who are hardworking, very diligent people. And I think people just need to take it as different people are different. Some are going to be slacking off, some are going to be hard workers, and I just wish there wasn't so much of like a stigma surrounding influencing.
I just want to touch one more point on this. Why do you think influencing is stigmatised in that way? Do you think maybe because, like you said, it's not as tangible as some things?
Yeah, look, I don't want to sound bad here, but sort of the older generation, because it isn't as tangible, sometimes they sort of struggle to understand what it even is, like even podcasts or things like that.
Yeah.
But if it's not in a newspaper, if it's not in a book or something like that, they basically think that there's no value to it. And as we know, unfortunately, printed media has died out a lot. So really, social media, the internet, podcasts, all these things, these are the way now that you advertise and that you are seen. But for a certain part of society, it's still mentally that, printed media is legitimate and online stuff is weird and just for people who are just wasting their time.
Yeah. How often do you post, and do you have like a planning strategy of what you post?
How often I post really depends on how popular I am at that moment. So if I've got a lot to post because I've had a lot of collaborations, I will post more frequently. And if I haven't, it might be less frequent. I try not to post just for the sake of it because I absolutely deplore putting things up that I don't feel happy about. I don't want to just put things up there for absolutely no reason. As to a schedule, I at one point bought a planner
Yep.
and I actually keep a lot of things in my head and I was like, I'm going to try and put this in a planner. Well, shortly after that was when COVID hit and a whole lot of other things happened in my life. And as fast as I was jotting things down, they were being robbed out. And I started to realize that this was not really going to work. So I've gone back to just being like the mental teledex of all of this information. Yeah, so I do have a little bit of a schedule and I do have in my mind what's coming up, but I probably don't have like a really concrete schedule like some people do, it might be bad, but
Yeah. And I guess with the schedule, even though you said you don't have a concrete one, but obviously you should, well, maybe you should, I don't know, have an idea of what you want to put, like some sort of goal to achieve in maybe in the first month or so, in the next month. Is that something that you kind of work to?
yeah, and I also try and make sure that things are harmonious, like aesthetically. I try to make sure that things aren't going to be too jarring together in the feed. I kind of see it as like an art gallery and you want to have everything come together nicely because now a lot of people aren't reading printed media. They're sort of scrolling through this and they're looking at it as a whole and you do kind of want to have it be harmonious with each other. So I do think aesthetically of how things go together, of what I've got coming up and all that kind of thing. So yeah, that there is some kind of rhyme and reason to it.
What kind of, I know you attend a lot of events here in Perth. What kind of events draw your attention the most? Or I know you get invited to a lot of places, but what obviously you can't attend everything and everything. So what kind of events do you prioritise?
I love musicals, so I tend to go to a lot of those because I just adore musicals. Lots of things that are like pop culture-y, like themed things, like anything that's like really fun. Like, yeah, there's things like that kind of catch my eye if they're like a little bit left of field. With the Mean Girls movie
Yep.
premiere recently, like that was kind of fun. Like, yeah, you want something that you can kind of really get into and it's a lot more fun, I think, when you attend these events and you're really excited about it and there's more to it than just, oh, I saw the movie. It's like, I had the outfit and we were saying the quotes from the movie and all that kind of thing. Like, I think that's more enjoyable for me and it's more enjoyable for the followers. So,
I just want to go back just a little bit when you first started out. Um, how did you gain more followers? Because some people, some influencers do like to buy their followers, And for me, I'm on Instagram as well for a couple of things, and I definitely don't do that. I don't see the point in doing it. To me, it's not authentic, but each to their own, I suppose. But yeah, how did you gain was it more, you like the more organic process?
oh, well, I definitely don't buy followers.
Yeah.
If I bought followers, I'd probably have a lot more because I'd be like, Rebecca, you've got 100,000. So,
Yeah.
so if I was buying followers, I'd have a lot. No, I really can't stand people buying followers. I feel like you're just cheating yourself. And funnily enough, apparently it kills your engagement anyway. So it's like, it's really pointless. It's really bad to do that. People buy likes, they buy comments and stuff. I've done it the old-fashioned way of a hard slog, just slogging away at it. Nothing glamorous, just keeping at it, trying to create content that's interesting and unique. And Yeah, there's no sexy secret to it, I guess. I guess people always want some like, you know, quick scheme of
Yeah.
gaining followers, but I guess it's just whether the algorithm is favoring you or not favoring you, you just keep at it because there's ebbs and flows. And as long, I mean, but you've also got to be creating something that is a bit different and that people do want to see. If you're just creating something that's very, very mundane and generic, you can't feel like you're owed followers or owed attention. I think people really have a sense of entitlement. Like I've set up a page, now everyone should come and adore me. And it's not really like that. You should be putting something out there that people are actually interested in.
Mm. I think it's got to be engaging as well. Yeah, I think that's the main thing. You got to keep it engaging, and also I think maybe post regularly as well.
Yeah, yeah. So if you don't post for like 3 months, you probably are going to lose followers because people are just going to move on. I mean, social media is so fast paced. People are always on to the next thing. So yeah, you've just got to keep posting and you've got to keep yourself out there because if you kind of fade away, it's hard to get yourself back out there again.
Yeah. What are some of the some goals that you have as an influencer that you'd like to achieve but you haven't quite yet?
Oh gosh. Look, I dare say I'm like undiagnosed ADHD or something. So my brain goes in a million different directions. Um, Something I am kind of interested in, and I don't know if I will go down that route, but I would like to do sort of like more of a narrative to videos and have more fleshed out videos that have a storyline, whether that meant like collaborating with other people who do the production side of it and I create the storyline and star in it. I don't know. But because I am a writer, that would be something that I would be interested in. I wouldn't even mind like taking it down like an acting sort of route. Like there's so many different routes I want to explore and I feel like as an influencer you can kind of jump around a lot. So that's good.
Okay. And yeah, we did talk about some of the things that aren't so great about being an influencer, that kind of stigmatization. What are some of your favourite things or most positive things for you?
I think that a lot of times people respond to you actually very well. People are just so lovely. Some people have been more supportive, say, than family members. People from around the world are just so kind. You get to meet people that you ordinarily would never have met. You get to do things that you ordinarily would never get a chance to do. So it's just extraordinary the doors that it opens up because Instagram is something that can be accessed by anyone in the world. And it's largely free. So yeah, I've been able to collaborate with people from countries that I'll probably never go to. And it's just, yeah, it's very amazing and I feel very privileged in that regard.
Yeah, and what are those some of those? I'm going to say, what are some of your three favourite top things that you've been able to do that you didn't think you'd be able to do?
Oh, well, of course, number one has to be this podcast, doesn't it?
Thank you. I did not pay you for that. Yeah.
Oh gosh, you probably saw it, but the pin-up video I did where I was like a punk rock look.
Yep.
Yeah, I was transformed into a punk rocker and I had to show my husband and that was so much fun because it was just very different for me.
Yep.
And then other things, I'm not really too sure. There's just been like so many different things, but I think some of the events are just like really fun. Sometimes they're things that I wouldn't ordinarily be able to go to. And I have been interviewed by various people, which has been really cool. Yeah, just like a wide variety of things. I get to do interesting and different things all the time, and it's like no 2 days are the same.
Do you think anyone can be an influencer when they first start out?
Well, I guess I mean, technically they can. I mean, anyone can sing, but as to whether or not people are going to buy their album is another matter. Um, So yeah, I think everyone thinks they can be an influencer because I think everyone nowadays wants to be famous and I don't want to be famous.
Yep.
I just want to be able to earn a livable income and to be able to do something I enjoy and be creative and be able to do fulfilling things. Um, I think a lot of people are thinking, I want to be famous, I want to be recognized. And a lot of times that might end up backfiring because you're just so fixated on the end result rather than maybe providing something that's interesting to other people.
Mm. And now I am going to ask, when where did the name Rebecca Rose come from?
Rebecca Rose Reviews?
Yeah, where did it come from?
So I'm going to let you in on a secret here.
Oh, here we go. Here's an exclusive.
My name is actually not Rebecca Rose. Most people think it is. So Rebecca Rose was a name. Sorry, my name is Rebecca, but it's not Rebecca Rose. Rebecca Rose was a name I gave myself to give myself like a little bit more anonymity. And so I had that for a while and I thought I'll go with that. But then when it came to Rebecca Rose Reviews, I don't know if you've noticed, but Rebecca Rose Reviews is like very symmetrical and it looks very aesthetically pleasing. I think the number of letters for Rebecca is the same as the number of letters for reviews, and the rows in between kind of like separates those two. And on a business card or aesthetically, it just looks very pleasing. And I'm like a very symmetrical person. And I also liked the RRR, which sometimes can make things more memorable. So I just felt like maybe that would make it a little more memorable. And it had my name in it, which was a good thing because then people remember, you know, it's about you. But yeah, it was hard to come up with a name, but that was kind of the one that won out.
Yeah. Well, it certainly sticks. I think it's a very clever decision to have, the way you've done it. I thought that was excellent. Now, you collaborate with a lot of different people. How do you choose who to collaborate? I know you kind of said, yeah, you've got time, but who are like some of your favourite people to collaborate with?
Well, again, you.
Yeah.
And you can just leave the money out. No, I'm just joking. Well, I love Rag Pop-Up because she has a lot of like Perth small businesses, a lot of fashion businesses, and I love supporting small Perth businesses. I love supporting Perth makers. I just think that that's extraordinary, and she just puts so much of her heart and soul into every event. She actually doesn't make like, a killing from the events. She makes a small amount, but she's just so passionate about it that she does all of these events and she just puts so much blood, sweat and tears into them. So that's one of my favorite ones. I always love doing like pin-up or vintage ones or fashion ones. I'm going to say another secret here.
Yep.
One of my least favorites to review, even though I know a lot about it, I don't like doing skincare a lot because it can be aesthetically kind of boring.
Yep.
So I kind of like makeup and fashion and things like that better. But that being said, if anyone has skincare and they want me to do it, I'm not discounting that.
Yeah. And yeah, with you said, Rag Pop-Up, I've actually been there a couple of times, and yeah, she does, she supports, local businesses, whether it be fashion, jewellery and all that kind of stuff. So shout out to you if you're listening. Okay, what would be some advice that you would give a influencer or someone who wants to become an influencer?
Okay. I think it would come down to, again, like most of the time, yes, there are people who will just stratospherically rise. But for the most part, most people have to work at it. So I would basically say it has to be something that you're willing to persist at, that you're willing to put in some hard work and some dedication and some time rather than just thinking, okay, I've set up an Instagram page. now I'm just going to become an influencer. Everyone's going to contact me and hey presto, that's it. Like any other profession, it's something that you have to put time and energy into and you have to build. And it's like, say if you were a lawyer or any other profession, you might build, you know, a network of contacts, you might build up your reputation, all that kind of stuff. And that takes time to build a good reputation. And the same with being an influencer. In a place like Perth, that's quite small,
Yep.
I feel like reputation is important because if you are not a great person, a lot of people are probably going to know about it.
Yep.
So especially in a place like Perth, you want to make sure that you don't ruin your reputation by being unprofessional. And if you're worried about just getting to the top really quickly, you likely will ruin your reputation and you'll ruin a lot of relationships.
Yeah. And it's also, Perth being very, very small, it's also, I think it's very important to be able to network really well.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. See, you're on the ball. Networking is so important. It's weird because sometimes people who are influencers, they kind of want to shy away from that. And you really have to network so much. And they do say it's not what you know, it's who you know. So that's not like being cynical. Like at the same time, like, you know, a lot of these people have become my friends and so on. So you do take a genuine interest in what they do, but you also have to make yourself known to people out there because if no one knows about you, then you won't get any traction. You know, weirdly enough, even though it's social media, a lot of it comes down to real life connections as well.
Yep, I have to agree with you there. I think networking is a skill as well. It's not everyone's good at it. I like to think I'm pretty decent at it, I think. But yeah, it's I think being an influencer or wanting to be an influencer, that's probably the number one skill that you need to learn. Yeah, and not just being. You need to also have a network online as well. I think that's a big skill as well.
Yeah. I do a lot of networking, but over time I have gotten better because I have anxiety and things like that. And before I would be the shy little shrinking violet and I wouldn't network much. And so now I've gone, basically, you can't afford to do that. You need to put yourself out there. You need to get right amongst things and you need to actually make the real life connections. And now I'm doing that a lot more. I'm getting out of my comfort zone and I'm actually interacting a lot more with people. And I think it's just good for you in general, like just to, you know, get out of your comfort zone.
I'm just going to go back to the fashion side of things here. Where do you, on Instagram you've got thousands upon thousands of different outfits. Where do you source them?
Okay, well, most of the outfits are ones I get sent.
Yep.
So sometimes I'll say, you know, sometimes I'll take monetary payment and sometimes I'll take products and sometimes I'll take both. So I get sent a lot of outfits. And so there's quite a lot that I don't buy, which is good because I don't actually have a lot of time. But yeah, I get sent a lot. But then when I go looking for outfits, I love like Polka Dot Vintage Market. I love, like that Vintage Market brings together like a whole lot of vintage reproduction, vintage, all that kind of stuff. And in Perth, it can be difficult because we don't have the shopping that, say, Melbourne or other places around the world do. So if you've got an event like that that brings together a whole lot of shops, it is really good. I find it hard in Perth, and sometimes I do find myself going online to find something. I'm hoping that, you know, we get more and more stores as time goes on. But sometimes, frustratingly, I do find that there's stores that we just don't have in Perth and I have to go online. But yeah, it's a whole lot of different places I find my outfits in.
And what kind of outfits do you, I know obviously they're vintage outfits, but what are there certain colours or certain aesthetics that you like the most?
Oh gosh, again, undiagnosed ADHD, I think. Basically, my mind is just going on. There's so many colors I like. There's so many aesthetics I like. So I don't know if I'm drawn to any particular one, but I think I do end up often being drawn more to like feminine sort of aesthetics. And I do wear true vintage as well as vintage reproduction. Um, but yeah, I think it's just kind of all over the place. It's just, well, I've kind of described before that my page is so colourful it makes your eyes bleed a bit.
Yeah. And with with your look, how did you work to define that? How did you like decide, yeah, this is the aesthetic that I'm looking for? Because you could have done many different things, but how did you define your look?
Well, like I said, I grew up loving that sort of vintage sort of look, Audrey Hepburn, all that kind of thing. Um, I found over time that I was gravitating way more towards that, even though I do have little bursts of other genres from time to time. But yeah, I found that that was kind of what I was gravitating towards, and it kind of was what suited me best. I think growing up, I was sort of an old-fashioned girl. I didn't quite fit into the world. I was one of those. I was one of those weird kids that read the dictionary.
Oh, well, that's all right.
So I think I was just like this person born in the wrong era.
Hmm.
And I think that I always had this sense that I wasn't quite in the right era, and that's kind of what steered me towards a different era of clothing maybe.
And now, speaking of eras, what would this kind of be a hypothetical question because time travel is not invented, not yet anyway. But let's just say if you could pick an era that if to be born in or to be involved in, what era would it be?
Oh gosh. Look, I might say the 1950s, but it's tough because there's a lot of eras I love aesthetically, but I also love things like antibiotics and modern
Yeah,
medicine.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
oh yeah, so I think I'd probably pick something like the 1950s, but that being said, I've already established that I'm not a good housewife. I don't have the values of the 1950s
yeah,
housewife. So aesthetically, I'd be loving it. And then everything else, I'd
you'd
be
hate it.
hating it.
Yeah. When you do photo shoots and things like that, how long is it? How long is the process of you deciding what to wear? Obviously, yeah, it's probably focused on the theme of the day, but how long does it take? Do you have like about 10 different wardrobe options and go, I don't know, this one?
Well, I actually do spend a lot of time thinking about it because I'm very diligent with everything I do. And I do like to feel like I'm really putting a lot of effort into it. So I do kind of go through what I have and try to decide what would look best. I have like a picture in my mind of what I think it will look like, and most of the time I'm correct. Sometimes I'm terribly wrong and it looks bad, but mostly I'm right. At the moment, it's getting harder and harder to go through what I own because it's getting to be more and more.
Hmm.
So yes, I sort of have a lot more things to go through now, and it does take a bit longer. But yeah, it is a process that I do assign a good amount of time to. And yeah, just try and think of a whole lot of different things, like maybe even where I'm going to shoot it or, what brand it's for or that kind of thing. I have so many things in my mind.
And also, I guess you also, the challenge with that being you also have to be original all the time, because a lot of people might, you know, want you in a different look that you, so you can't do the same thing over and over again.
Oh, I think that's all right because I get bored very quickly anyway, so I tend to jump around a lot. But I am also a little bit naughty and I do rewear stuff, but I rewear it in an unnoticeable way.
Yep.
And I actually quite enjoy rewearing things. Like I like to see if people notice and I like to get as many looks out of one thing as I can. So some people never rewear stuff. I think that's incredibly wasteful
Yep.
and just contributes to landfill. So I would definitely say rewear stuff. It's the way to go.
Yep.
Don't be afraid to rewear.
What kind of fashion trends do you like now that are coming out? Is there any?
I don't even know if I'm aware of the current fashion trends because I do tend to be so, in my own little thing. I know that a while ago there was all that cottagecore thing, which I loved, all that sort of coquette look. Oh gosh, there have been some looks that I have liked. They're usually, like I said, like the cottagecore, a bit more like almost like themed. But then there's also a lot of modern stuff that I just think, oh, what is going on there? I'm
Yep.
not about that. And then also something I've not really been a fan of is that they've sort of brought back the 90s stuff and I was alive during the 90s and it wasn't really a great era aesthetically even back then. So I'm like, let's just leave it.
Let's just leave it there. Back at some things are best left in the past. So, as a social media influencer, what would be your number one thing that annoys you the most about the role? Number one.
Oh gosh. I do hate it when people come to me and they're like, "Oh, we want you to advertise our products and we want you to pay for them because, for the privilege of advertising our products, we'll give you like 20% off." And I'm just like, "Oh, wow, how generous." And they don't understand that it is a service like any other. And so someone should be remunerated for their time because believe it or not, people don't want to advertise for your brand for free, or some people do. But anyway, yeah, so if you want people to essentially advertise your brand, it is very demeaning to come to someone and say, we expect you to buy something and then also advertise us. I do consider myself a businesswoman, so I find it quite demeaning. And I even had someone call me, I'm not going to say who it was, I had someone call me on the phone to tell me that they were giving me the opportunity to advertise their brand, but I had to buy the stuff, but I would get a discount. And I basically said as nicely as I could, I'm a businesswoman
Yep.
and I'm not going to be doing that. And I literally said that it was demeaning.
Yep.
Um,
Insulting, really.
yeah, it was insulting because it was like, why are you calling me? And they were in another state. Why are you calling me about this? Like you're offering me some great opportunity. And then it's so patronizing.
Have you, just on that, have to be wary of scamming as well?
Oh, yeah. I mean, do you ever get the sugar daddy?
Oh, no. I get the one that they say, oh, yeah, here, come collaborate with this brand. We'll give you 10% off this. I just
yeah.
usually just chuck it in the block and delete. Yep.
Yeah, I get those. I get the sugar daddy ones. I get all
get
kinds of
occasionally them. Yep.
scams. Every scam you could possibly think of, I get. And I do write some pretty witty responses at times.
Yep.
I feel like that I even had one that was asking me to marry them within about 2 minutes of talking. So it's pretty hilarious, but unfortunately scamming is rife.
It is. Not, and also not just for influencers. It's just rife all over the internet, really.
Oh yeah, like it's not just me that gets it, just people with personal accounts
Yep.
get it. So
Okay, well, when you are doing, I'm going to go photo shoots here. When you do photo shoots, who do you do most of the direction or do you take a lot of the direction?
Do you mean when I'm doing non-professional ones with my husband, or when I'm doing professional ones? Professional ones.
Yep.
I probably take direction a lot because they're the professional.
Yep.
And then with some of my photo shoots, I have kind of come up with some ideas and some poses and things like that. A lot of times I've styled myself for my photo shoots. I think almost all of my photo shoots I've styled myself. So there is a lot of involvement from me, but obviously they're the professionals and they know what is going to look best. So I do listen a lot to what they have to say because otherwise if I don't listen to what they have to say, I might come out looking terrible.
Mm-hmm. I know you briefly said, there are some things that you'd like to do in the pipeline, maybe a bit more acting and a bit more, storyline based kind of social media things. Is there something that you are planning on doing in the future that you haven't done, like let's say the next few months? Is there something coming up for you that you're really excited for?
Oh gosh. I think it's kind of similar to what I've done previously. But that being said, I have a lot of things crop up as time goes on. So I really don't know a lot of times what I'm going to be doing a few months from now. And then I have this like amazing opportunity come up that 1 or 2 months ago I didn't even know about. So I have no doubt that some cool opportunities will come up. I feel like I have been getting out of my comfort zone so much more that I'm really seeing the benefits of that. And I feel like 2024 is my year because I really am pushing myself to get out of my comfort zone. And obviously it's all well and good to make New Year's resolutions, but you have to actually put the effort into extending yourself, evolving as a person and pushing yourself out of your comfort zone.
How do you see yourself evolving in 2024, the brand and yourself?
I'm hoping that there will be opportunities that seem too big at the moment. Like, I kind of think that it is good to dream big. In the past, I haven't done that enough. I've kind of limited myself a lot, not had a lot of self-belief, but I kind of feel now, what's the harm to dreaming big? Like, if you don't get there, you're no worse off. But yeah, I kind of feel like it's great to dream big. There's so many things that I would like to kind of delve into. There's so many avenues I'd like to go down. Like it's just, the world is out there.
Well, Rebecca, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you so much for joining me today.